What we're doing today is we're starting a new webinar series that's focused on wholesalers and new features that are going to be applicable to the distribution business. Now, at YCharts, we're constantly developing new tools, we're adding new data, and at times folks have said, hey, it's tough to keep track of everything that you guys are doing and adding. So what we're really trying to do is take a step back and narrow the focus to the most important tools or use cases to the sales process for distribution teams. And we're going to cover those items in detail to allow you to equip yourself with new tools within YChart that you can leverage with your conversations with clients. Questions will be answered. So if you do have questions, please feel free to fire away within the Zoom module. We will ensure we get a reply or answer those questions after the webinar. And a recording of the presentation will also be sent out. So if you got to jump or if you want to catch the recording, run through something that we covered, again, you can always access that. It'll be sent out after the webinar concludes as well. The agenda today, we're going to walk through just a brief overview of YCharts because I'm sure there's some folks on the line that have not had a chance to see it in action or use it. Then we're going to cover those new product releases. So what's new within the platform that's going to help with your conversations when you're across the desk from an advisor. And then we'll wrap up with the Q&A session. Fire away on those. We will most definitely get back to you for the answers on your questions. Now, YCharts for asset managers. What is it that we do? Where do we help out wholesalers or asset managers and distribution teams? Well, the key takeaway is the fact that YCharts enables sales folks to be a lot more savvy at the point of sale. We provide you with the data that you need at your fingertips to answer every question and overcome every objection on the fly, on the spot. So it's not a matter of, hey, well, let me get back to you with some information. You are leaving that meeting without having any unanswered questions. So the dynamic ability of the platform to make comparisons on the fly, generate reports within seconds, just helps overall shorten the sales cycle and do away with a lot of that meeting friction. Now, when it comes to these new product releases, there's going to be three tools or three areas of the site that I'm going to focus on. One of them is our new stress test tab. You basically have the ability to run any product through a historical stress test scenario versus a competitor or versus an index or the broad market. Next, we'll jump into our scenarios tool, which allows you to take a look back in time and account for withdrawals or contributions. You choose an investment amount, you choose the time frame, you choose whether or not you want to choose an index or a competitive product to see exactly how that would have played out. And then last but not least is Report Builder. Report Builder allows you to create custom reports, which you can tailor to a specific sales story or to a client's unique needs. So it gives you a lot more freedom and flexibility when it comes to the reporting. Let's go ahead and jump into the website to get started with the stress test tab. So within YCharts, your first step is going to be using the search box. And most of the time you're using this to pull up products or tickers on the fly, gain insider information quickly, easily, and efficiently. Keep it pretty simple for this first example. I'm just going to pull up the Qs, but you don't have to know the exact ticker. You could type in the name of the product, the competitor, whatever information your client gives you. That brings us to the quote page. The quote page is the first thing that you'll see whenever you pull up a product. It gives you all the basic high-level information. What I want you to look for here is the stress test tab. So you'll see it toward the end. You simply click on the tab and it brings you into a page with multiple charts and views on different economic and market events throughout time. Now, a couple things to point out here. One, you have simply the product that you have pulled up, in this case, QQQ, versus a benchmark. Now, when it comes to the benchmark being shown, this is another tip that I'll throw out there. We recently released the ability to choose the benchmark. Do you want to see the broad asset class, which would, in this case, show you the S&P, or do you want to see the YCharts categorization? And the YCharts specific benchmarks are something that we created to bridge the gap between that broad benchmark and something like a category index. The YCharts categorization, if I flip it, since we're looking at a large cap product, it'll show you the best fit for that style box or for that market cap. So in this case, we have the Russell 1000 growth opposed to the broad market, which would give me the S&P 500. I'm just going to switch it, I should say, back to the broad asset class here and point out a couple more things on the stress test tab. Now, as I said, you have both the product that you pulled up as well as the index. We now offer the ability to add a comparison security as well. So, for example, if I wanted to toss ARKK in there, ARK, I can add that in, and that's going to apply through these timeframes. So as we walk through these timeframes, you can see exactly what period that was, what occurred, and the dates that are being accounted for. So inflation drawdown, coronavirus crisis, trade crisis, and so on. And if a product doesn't have history, it won't be shown. So as you continue to scroll down, you have everything all the way back to the financial crisis. Now, we are flexible when it comes to these different events to an extent. So if you have something that sticks out that you think is a must-have here, feel free to share it with your point of contact at YCharts, because we do have the ability to add additional events or timeframes. So definitely open to ideas there. A couple more quick notes on the stress test tab. One, the format. You're going to want it in normalized most of the time, because that's what's going to give you returns. You also have the option to show growth at 10K or what a $10,000 investment would do. Most of the time, you're not going to be using original, which shows you the NAV of the product, not necessarily an apples to apples comparison. The other item to take note of, the export button. The stress test tab can be exported. So whether you want to save that on a local file or save an image on your iPad, whatever the case might be, you can have this ready to go on your device, or even if you want to print out a physical copy, you'll have the ability to do that. And if needed, we can apply compliance disclosures to the output. So once again, stress test tab, we got here by going to the search box up top, pulling up an individual product, and then clicking on the tab itself. From here, you can input a comparison. You could also swap out the benchmark and even export the output for all of those periods. The last thing I didn't mention, worth noting, you can also click into the charts themselves. If you say, hey, this is interesting, but I'm limited to only 2 products. Well, what does the drawdown look for small caps? I can come in and make this my own chart, add in anything I'd like to see, and build on top of that to a point where maybe I create something new, something different, and I can save it down in my own account. So just like you do throughout any other tool, you can save this chart as your own in your own personal file. Moving on, next we'll talk through our scenarios tool. And this is an extremely helpful way to tell the story of how investments have grown or how the investments have produced income. So this is going to stand for portfolios, individual products. Ultimately, anything within the platform can be pulled into the scenarios tool. Your starting point is going to be the security section here. So we'll go with just a couple products in the moderate allocation category for the sake of the example. And as you can see, you can compare it versus a benchmark versus another security, or even as a saved scenario. So what that does is it'll allow you to compare two totally different scenarios. So such as I want to take withdrawals of 4% a year versus 5% a year. That's an example. Or maybe I wait 5 more years to start taking withdrawals. Save scenario is going to allow you to accomplish that in one single view. But for the sake of the example, we'll stick with other security. And we'll add in a competitor there. Now we can go ahead and choose a start date and an end date. So you could pick the exact dates that you want to see. So maybe we'll go back about 20 years or so to 2003. We'll say end of May 2003 to end of May 2023, just by picking the date range. And then what's our initial investment going to be? Once again, you just key that in and you can click calculate to generate the information that we've input on the chart. The next step is going to be building the actual scenario. And what's nice about the tool that we have is you can overlay multiple scenarios. So you can say, hey, I want to make contributions for the first 10 years, then start taking withdrawals after that. Or I want to make a lump sum investment or a one-time investment, halfway through this period. You can account for all that using multiple scenarios or building multiple scenarios. So what we'll do here is we'll just call this one a withdrawal of, let's go with 4% annually. So this is just the name of the scenario. Then from there, we're going to decide, do we want withdrawals or contributions? As stated, we'll do the withdrawal option. Is it going to be a percentage or is it going to be an actual value? As I mentioned, we'll go 4% annually, so we'll use percentage. Input the value is 4. We don't need the percent sign because it automatically accounts for the fact that it is a percentage, and that's going to be an annual basis. The rate of change option is extremely helpful to account for cost of living adjustments or expected inflation. Rate of change checkbox is selected. And then once again, you can account for a value percentage. Most of the time, I'm sure it's going to be that percentage. And let's just call it 3% a year. Once again, frequency is going to be annual. And from there, we have all of our information filled in for that scenario. So let's go ahead and click add. And now that's going to look much different. The values have been affected. You also have the net contributions and withdrawals line. So we basically started with $1 million, and based on all of the withdrawals, that's what the net contributions and or withdrawals are looking like over that period. That's what the value is. And then as we scroll down, since I based it on an annual amount, it would make the most sense to choose the frequency for all of the data to be annual. So pretty straightforward on the output or the results. Here's what we're left with after the withdrawals over that 20-year period. This is showing us exactly how much we're withdrawing each year in the bar chart. And then down below, you have the contribution table, which, what is your starting value? So it accounts for the growth of the investment as well as the withdrawals. Shows you what your return is net of the contributions or withdrawals, as well as gross. So it gives you a lot of great information to really hammer home the point of this is a great product if you're looking to take income. Here's how it's going to grow, and here's how it's going to be affected by the contributions of the withdrawals over time. And then ultimately you can save this down. And what we really focused on is more so the scenarios. The tickers are easy, you can swap them out, but what we're going to save when you save the scenario tool is the scenario itself, the time frame, the withdrawal amount, the percentage, etc. So that's what's going to be tied to the saved content. Tickers you can always just slot in quickly and easily. And then the last point I'll make here is we do have an exportable PDF. So you click the export button, you can call it whatever you want. I'll just leave it with the default name for now and click download. And within a few seconds, we're going to have an output. So we want to hand that to the client or give that to the client. This is what our output's going to look like with all of that data as far as the growth goes, the withdrawals, the amounts. So all be here within the report. Once again, we got here by going to the tools dropdown and scenarios. Last, we're going to cover the report builder. And to me, the report builder is the most exciting tool because of its flexibility. So if we go to the report builder section, we can work off of templates that have been previously built by us at YCharts, or we can create brand new reports. The upper right-hand corner, you'll see both options. As I stated earlier, the idea behind the report builder is we give you the flexibility or the customization for the reports. So you can tailor the metrics, the story. You can add even your own PDFs or branding, market outlook to those reports to make sure that they're consistent with your messaging and with your sales pitch. So let me show you a couple options or how it might be used. First, new from YCharts template. So we've done all the work using our standard templates, whether that's a comparison or a head-to-head or a multi-comp, the one versus many, up to 5 competitors. You can start here. So let's say maybe I have an equity strategy, but I want to tailor the messaging a little bit of the report. I'm going to go ahead and start with that. And you're basically opened up with the report editor. Now you can go through and make changes to it. So if you want to remove any of these modules or edit them, that's what this option allows you to do. I might come in and say, hey, the key stats are great, but maybe I don't want a 5-year number here front and center. Maybe I want to focus on a 3-year number. So I can simply remove those individual items and replace those with that 3-year number. Or you can completely clear that out and start from scratch and decide on what key stats are most important to the strategy or to the messaging. You can also remove entire portions of the report. So if we scroll down and we say, hey, maybe this is a little bit of overkill. Maybe my client doesn't need that much information. We can come down and remove anything that we want. Maybe we don't need top 25 holdings. Okay, we'll just delete the module, delete the page. So it's pretty simple to be able to edit these, customize them in any way, shape, or form, and go from there. So we just killed off a couple things. We'll just delete those pages, clean up the report, and save it as something new. So we'll just call this test report 3. We'll save it. It's now going to be available within our account as an available report, and we can also share it with the entire organization. So you might have a team that customizes or tailors these reports, pushes them through compliance to a point where now the entire sales team has access to them. And as far as sharing them goes, it's really simple. I have this test report 3, as we call it. More options, share. Anyone in ABC Asset Management can view, click OK. Now that's going to send a notification out stating, hey, Kyle just shared test report 3. Here's a link directly to it so you can view it and use it. And now it's going to be in everybody's account as they pull up YCharts and they generate reports. The other option would be starting from scratch. So we just covered a brief way to go in and edit our templates and customize those. with metrics or deleting certain items. We go and we start with a completely blank from scratch report. This is another route we can go. It allows you to select a report type. Is it a one versus one? Is it a one versus many? Do we want to create a presentation, or is it just focused on one individual security? That gives us the option to select it. For this example, I'll use the comparison report or our side by side. And like I said, you're completely starting from scratch, but it's extremely easy to build out these reports. You're basically adding pages and then selecting modules. So now in the left-hand panel, we can see every module that's available to us to start building out this report. So we can start with our basic cover page that we use on every report. If we scroll down, we'll see it under the other section. So I can just drag and drop that. It's going to have the ability to input the client's name, my name, have the firm logo, and so on. Maybe that's where we start. Another option that I want to share that's very unique is the ability to input your own individual PDFs. So what I did is I just wound up selecting that option, did a drag and drop, and I'm going to open a PDF. This is going to be a YCharts PDF that we used in another piece, but 3 pages. You can upload up to 10 pages in one shot. And I've just inserted commentary and graphics and marketing material that's unique to my firm. Speaking of unique, I won't bore everybody with all of the standardized templates that you'll see in other reports, but we also have the ability to add in saved assets. And when we say saved assets, that's a fundamental chart that you've created in the platform, or a comp table with custom timeframes. Once again, you can simply drag and drop it and insert that within the report builder tool. So that's any chart you've created. And the example that I'll show you here is covering the Fed activity or their pause and cut in 18 into 19. What it does is it applies those economic indicators, but any individual product that's selected on the report, it'll add those in and allow you to chart those over that unique period to really capture that entire story. As far as other modules that are worth noting, we have a security metrics module, which this ultimately allows you to put any single data point that you want within the report. So a couple things that we don't have pre-built modules for: upside, downside, fund flows. Now that problem's solved with this security metrics module. So if I wanted to add in upside, downside, I have the ability to do that. So you have plenty of runway here to input multiple timeframes for any metrics that you're interested in adding, not currently covered on the report. So once again, the report builder, it's going to allow you to customize your reports even further, add additional branding, market commentary, saved content that's been created within other areas of YCharts that can be applied and generated on the reports themselves. So once again, it gives you that more custom or more tailored report that's unique to your firm, not something that's more templated being used elsewhere by competitors or other asset managers. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up today's session. As I mentioned, please fire away if you have any final questions. In the question module, we will ensure that we get back to you on those. If you do have any questions as it relates to what we covered today, please do not hesitate to reach out for us. The easiest way to do that is through the support section. If you go to contact us, you'll be brought to the page with your support rep's contact info, phone number, email address. There's also a link to book time on their calendar directly. So if you want to go through anything that we covered today in more detail and be in the driver's seat, Can't recommend doing so enough. We'll go ahead and wrap there. Really appreciate everybody joining the first session. I hope there were a couple solid takeaways, but as always, we're here to help out and be an extension of the team. So please send us any questions or connect with us on anything that you're curious about. Thanks and have a great day.